In today's video, we're going to show you how to reassemble the firearm after field stripping it. We're going to use a fully disassembled firearm just to make things easier. The first two things you want to pay attention to are the carrier and the bolt. You want to insert the bolt into the carrier. And it stops here because the lugs are getting in the way. Once you have the bolt inserted and it stops, just give it a twist while letting it slide down. And you want to continue twisting it until you feel it stop. Once it stops, you want to push the bolt forward. The bolt will only go so far forward if it's properly installed. If the bolt is not installed, if the lugs are not where they need to be, the bolt will come out completely. So once you rotate it and it's correctly installed, the bolt will stop in the forward position. On the receiver, you'll have a hammer. This hammer needs to be locked down, which will hold it in will be held in place once it is pushed down. With the hammer in the down position, you want to take the carrier and so insert the piston into the trunnion, and while the carrier is in the rearward position of the receiver, you want to push down. It will stop once it gets as far as it can go, and then you want to slide it forward. In this step, you may need to give it a little bit of extra force because the hammer that you push down is interacting with the bolt itself. And slide that forward. The carrier and the bolt are now installed. Once the carrier and the bolt are pushed forward, you want to take the recoil spring assembly and slide it into the rear of the carrier. And it will stop in that position. You want to push it forward and then let the rear end of the recoil assembly line up with the slots here at the rear trunnion, and then it will lock in place. That recoil assembly is now properly installed. The next step is to install the dust cover. All right, at this portion, we're going to install the dust cover. This is the last step in the reassembly. All right, it is very important when installing the dust cover that the front end of the dust cover is inserted into the front trunnion correctly. There are grooves there. It can only go in one way. It may be a little snug, so you may add a little bit of force. Once the front of the dust cover is in place, you want to focus on the rear end of the dust cover. At this point, you want to continue to give forward pressure to keep it in the front groove while also putting downward force on it in order to get the dust cover in place. And as you can see demonstrated there, we do what we call a modified karate chop, but you will need to give it a nice bump in order to get it to lock into place. One thing at this point we want to pay attention to is that button slides and locks the dust cover into place. And at this point, you've completed the reassembly of the firearm.